Hey everyone, I'm Liz, and today I'm going to show you how I made this pair of cat ears that I'm wearing right now. Now, last year I made a tutorial that was pretty good for cat ears, but it wasn't perfect, so bearing in mind all of your comments from the last video, I have made this new tutorial, and I hope that you guys enjoy it. So what you're going to need for this tutorial are a crochet hook, I'm using a size E, a pair of scissors to cut off your yarn, a needle to sew down your ears to whatever you're sewing them to, and obviously you're going to need yarn. I used two different shades of purple for the ears themselves and a shade of pink for the inner ear, and I have sewed them to this headband that I made in the same colors. So as you can see, I've already done one ear. So I'm going to start with the back and then make the front, and then I'm going to put both sides together and add the peak at the middle. Since I'm starting with the back, I'm going to start with the light purple. So the first thing I'm going to do is make a double magic circle. So in order to do that, I'm going to loop my yarn around my fingers twice. I'm going to take this pair of loops in my other hand. And then through the two loops, I'm going to pull up a loop in the middle and chain one. So this isn't going to count as the first stitch, this is just going to be to begin, and now I'm going to add 4 more stitches of single crochet to the loops. So I'm going to pull up a loop and single crochet, and then I'm going to do that 3 more times. So now I have 4 single crochets as well as my beginning chain. So I'm going to close my magic circle now by pulling slightly on the tail. Now I have 2 loops, one big and one small. I'm going to take my small loop and pull it from the side closest to the tail. So I'm just going to pull that side until the other loop seals completely. And now I have one big loop instead of 2 smaller ones, so I'm going to pull on the tail until that loop closes itself completely. Okay. And now I'm going to continue. So I'm going to, instead of working in the round, I'm not going to close this magic circle, I'm going to chain up to get to the next row and turn the work around. So into that same stitch that I just chained up from, I'm going to insert my hook, pull up a loop, and increase. And now I'm going to increase in every other stitch in this row. So I have 2 stitches here, 3, and increase. Now I have 4. The next stitch, I'm going to insert my hook. That's the 5th, and now 1 more. And now we have 6 stitches. And I'm going to go into that last little loop and pull up and then increase. So now I have 8 stitches in total, and I have a half circle shape. So I'm going to chain up to get to the next row, turn the work around again, and in this row I'm going to increase every other stitch. So the first stitch I'm not going to increase, so I'm going to skip to the next one, pull up a loop and single crochet, and then I'm going to go into that same stitch and increase. Now the next stitch is non-increase, so I'm going to single crochet once, and then the next one I'm going to increase, so I'm going to single crochet once, twice in that stitch. So now I have 6 stitches so far. Here's the 7th in the next stitch, and then the 8th and 9th should go in the next one after that. And increase. Here's the 10th stitch, and the last increase is going to be in this chain that I made. $11 and $12. So now I'm just going to chain once to end this row. I'm going to cut away my yarn. So my next row, I'm going to be using a darker shade of purple. So I'm going to turn the work around and insert my hook into that last stitch that I did before I chained one. I'm going to pull up a loop of this darker purple, and I'm going to move my tails so that I can crochet them in along this row. So I'm going to chain one, and now in this row I'm going to increase every third stitch. So this will be my first. Oops. Now there's my second. And now the third stitch I'm going to increase. So I'm going to insert my hook into the third, crochet once, twice, and that will be my fourth stitch. Now I'm going to continue and increase every third stitch. So now I am on the 16th stitch, which is the last stitch of this row, so I'm going to chain up to get to the next one. And now in this row I'm going to increase every fourth stitch, so this chain counts as my first one. Now here's the second, third, and on the fourth stitch I'm going to increase. So now I'm going to continue to increase every fourth stitch. Okay, and now I am on the last increase of the row, and now I have a total of 20 stitches. So I'm going to chain up to get to the next row, and in this row I'm going to increase every fifth stitch. So here's the first one, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and now I'm going to increase. So I'm going to continue to increase every fifth stitch on this row. So I've finished with the last increase of the row, and now I have 24 stitches in total. So I'm going to just chain one to finish this row. And now I'm going to continue using the light purple yarn again. So just as I did before, I'm going to insert my hook into the stitch before I chained one. I'm going to pull up a loop of that light purple, and I'm going to chain one. So that's going to count as our first stitch, and now I'm going to increase in every sixth stitch. So I'm going to pull up a loop and single crochet until I get to the sixth stitch. Okay, and now in the sixth stitch I'm going to increase. Now I'm going to continue to single crochet and increase in the sixth stitch till I get to the end of the row. Okay, now I've finished with this row, so I'm going to continue using this color. I'm going to chain up, and now I'm going to crochet and I'm going to single crochet and increase every seventh stitch. Oops. So I'm on my fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh, and now I'm going to increase. Okay, so now I've finished with this row. I'm going to chain up one more time, and now I'm going to increase every 8th stitch. So there's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And now I'm going to increase. And I'm going to continue to increase this way all the way around the row. So I've gotten to the end of this row, so now I'm going to just chain 1 to end, cut off my yarn. So I'm going to go in just the way that I did before on the side before I did my single chain. And I'm going to pull up a loop of the dark purple and chain 1. And then I'm going to single crochet all the way across this row, and I'm going to hide my tails as I go. But in this row, I'm not going to add any increases. I'm just going to continue single crocheting until I get to the end. So I've gotten to the end of this row, and I'm going to chain up to get to the next row. I ended up with 36 stitches in total. And I'm going to crochet across another row without increasing with my dark purple yarn. So I've gotten to the end of this row, so I'm going to just chain 1 to end it. I'm going to cut my yarn away. Now the back of the ear is done, so now I need to do the front of the ear. So I'm going to make another double magic circle, just as I did before, by looping the yarn twice around my fingers. And now this time, you could just do it exactly the same way that I did before with the purple yarn by doing the 4 single crochets in the middle loops. But I'm actually going to do 8 double crochets this time, just so that I can make it go a little faster. So I'm going to chain 1 and chain another. And now I'm going to double crochet 7 more times into these loops. So there's 1, 2, and I'm going to want to have a total of 8 stitches at the end. So there's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 1 more, 8. Okay, now I'm going to close the magic circle. So just as I did before, I'm going to pull slightly on the tail until one of the loops is smaller than the other. I'm going to take that smaller loop, and from the side closest to the tail, I'm going to pull until the other loop seals itself. And then I'm going to take that tail and close the other loop. And now to make this just the same size as the purple one on the other side, I'm going to do 1 row of single crochet. So I'm going to chain up, and I'm going to increase every other row. So I'm going to go to the next stitch, because the chain counts as the first stitch. And in this stitch, I'm going to increase. In the next one, I'm just going to do 1 single crochet. And then the next one after that, I'm going to increase. So now I have the pink section of the inner ear. So to end this section, I'm going to chain 1, cut away the yarn, and now I am going to continue with the purple stripes. So now that I've finished making this other pink part for the other ear, as you can see on this other side, I have this line showing, and in order to have that happen, I need to work only in the back loops on this piece so that the front loops can remain exposed. So I'm going to turn the work around and insert my hook into the stitch just before my chain to end. I'm going to insert my hook and pull up a loop of my dark purple, but I'm going to only insert my hook into that back loop and leave the front loop open. So now I'm going to chain one, and now I'm going to continue to single crochet across, and this time I'm going to be increasing every third stitch, and I am going to continue to work only in the back loops. So I'm going to pull up a loop, and in the third stitch I'm going to increase. So back into that same stitch, pull up a loop, and increase. And now I'm going to continue, and I'm going to continue to increase every third stitch. So I finished with the last increase of the row, so I'm going to chain up, turn the work around to get to the next row, and in this row I'm going to increase every fourth stitch. So here's the second, third, fourth, and now I'm going to increase. And now I'm going to continue to increase every fourth stitch. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. And now I'm going to increase. Okay. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, now I am at the end of the row, so I'm going to chain up and turn the work around. And in this next row, I'm going to increase every fifth stitch. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So now I'm going to increase. And then on the fifth one, I'm going to increase again. And I'm going to continue to increase every fifth stitch all the way around. So now that is the last stitch of this row, so I'm going to chain to finish, cut off my yarn, and then I'm going to change colors back to my light purple. Okay, so now I'm going to change colors again, so I'm going to pull up a loop of light purple in the stitch right before I chained to end, and then I'm going to chain one. And now I'm going to single crochet all the way across, and I'm going to increase in the sixth stitch this time. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and on the sixth stitch I'm going to increase. So there we go. And now I'm going to continue to increase every sixth stitch all the way across. So So I finished with the last stitch of the row, so now I'm going to chain up to get to the next row. And now in this row I'm going to increase every 7th stitch. So there's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And now I'm going to increase 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and now I'm going to increase again. So I'm going to continue to increase every 7th stitch until I get to the end of the row. Okay, so I finished with the last increase of the row, so I'm going to chain up and turn the work around. And now this is going to be my last row of light purple. So I'm going to continue to single crochet in this row until I get to the 8th stitch, and then I'm going to increase. So there's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And now I'm going to increase. I'm going to continue increasing every 8th stitch all the way around this row. 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Okay, so I've gotten to the end of the row, and now I'm just going to chain to finish. And cut away my yarn. So in the next row, I'm going to want to add a row of dark purple all the way around without increasing. So I'm going to insert my hook into the stitch right before I chained. And then I'm going to pull up a loop. And then I'm going to chain 1. And now I'm just going to single crochet all the way around without increasing. So I've gotten to the end of this row, so I'm going to chain up and turn the work around, and then I'm going to add another row of single crochet all the way around, also without adding any increases. Alright, so I've finished with the front part, and now I need to join the two sides together. So I'm going to take the front and the back and line up the two bottom corners. And before I chain up, I'm going to insert my hook into the bottom corner on this side here. And then I'm going to pull up my loop and chain up. And now I'm going to turn the work around. Now theoretically these should both be exactly the same number of stitches, so I'm just going to single crochet one time in each stitch on both sides until I get to the middle, where I'm going to add the little corner at the tip of the ear. So I'm going to go through both loops on both sides and single crochet. Okay, so I have reached the center of the ears. So now I'm going to add the peak to the top. So for the next stitch, I'm going to add an increase, but first I'm going to do, all right, so I'm going to do one stitch of single crochet, and then my increase is going to be half double crochet. So I'm going to yarn over, insert my hook into the same stitch, pull up a loop, and then pull through all 3 loops. And now, as you can see, my yarn is a little higher level than it was before. So now, to get it a little bit higher level, I'm going to yarn over and double crochet this time. So into the next stitch, I'm going to pull up a loop, and now to double crochet, I'm going to pull through 2, and then pull through 2 again. And now I'm going to add a picot to the top so that the yarn can get even higher up and add a little peak. So there's 1, oops. So in order to make a picot, I'm going to chain 3, and then in that 3rd chain from the hook, I'm going to insert my hook, pull up a loop, and slip stitch. So now there's going to be a little tip on the corner of the ear. And now to do the other side of the ear tip, I need to do the same thing that I just did, but going the opposite direction. So I'm going to do a double crochet. So I'm going to yarn over, and into that same stitch that I just did my double crochet, I'm going to do another one. So pull through 2, pull through 2, and now I have the point of my ear, and now I need to do my half double crochet increase. So yarn over again. Into the next space, I'm going to pull up a loop, and this time I'm going to pull through all 3. And now to finish the increase, I just need to do a single crochet into the same stitch. So now I just need to finish the row with single crochet until I get to the end of the 2 sides of the ear. Okay, so I've finished with all of the single crochets until the final corner. So instead of single crocheting into that corner, I'm just going to slip stitch into both. So I'm going to pull up my loop like I've been doing, but instead of single crocheting, I'm just going to slip stitch. I'm going to cut off my yarn. And I'm going to leave a long tail when I cut off the yarn so that I can sew the ear to whichever base I am going to sew it to. So as you can see, I have finished making both of the ears, and I have sewn them down onto a headband that I made using the same colors. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you have any questions or comments, you can get in touch with me on Facebook or Twitter or Tumblr or down in the comments section below. And if you would like to see more, then please subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!